welcome everybody. Let's talk real estate. Your weekly BS with Barry Saywitz about the current commercial real estate market here in Southern California. As we take a no BS look at both sides of the issues driving this market today to find the best solutions going forward. With our man right in the middle, it's Barry Saywitz. Hey, Barry.
Hey, good morning, Paul, and good morning out there to all of our viewers and our listeners. Welcome back again. If it's Tuesday, we're talking real estate. I am Barry Saywitz, president of the Saywitz Company and managing partner of Saywitz Properties. And we're back here again to talk some more real estate. If there's one thing that I've learned in my 30-plus years of doing this, it's to surround yourself with smart people, try and get informed and make good business decisions. And I'm excited about today's show because we have with us a special guest, the mayor, John Stephens, mayor of the city of Costa Mesa, who not only practices law, dabbles a bit in real estate, and is certainly in tune with all of the inner workings of the city and what goes on throughout the rest of the county. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you. So you're including me in the smart people that you surround yourself with.
I hope so. I mean, that's the goal and that's the plan, and if that's not the case, we're going to fake it. So.
Flattery, you'll get you everywhere.
Yeah. So I appreciate you coming on the show. We have had mayors from other cities in the past on the show. And Costa Mesa, to me, not only is it a place where I used to live, but own a bunch of property and close to the heart. And so certainly wanted to have you come in and chat about all the great successes and the growth within the city of Costa Mesa in the past and certainly what's to come. For you're a longtime resident of the city and Southern California, and so I'm sure you've seen a lot of the growth within the different neighborhoods of the city and ups and downs as the economy and real estate market go back and forth. I want to rewind for a second. So my first question is, so what made you get into politics or get involved with the city government? You're a practicing attorney and have been most of your professional career. What made you get into this side of it?
Yeah, well, see, I'm a 34th year lawyer, so I've been practicing law for over 33 years. I moved to Costa Mesa right after law school, and we had eventually 4 children, bought a house. I bought a house back in the day when a 27-year-old could buy a house in Mesa Verde in Costa Mesa. That's not the case anymore, but I took advantage of it. As I said, 4 kids, they're all adults now. I got involved with the kids I worked for a big law firm for a while in Costa Mesa, and then I left that. Got involved in coaching the kids' sports and for 18 years, met a lot of people in the community, served the community that way, both baseball, some basketball, and softball. And then in 2010, the city was going in a different direction. Now, I don't know what your politics are, Barry. It doesn't make any difference. But I'm kind of a pro-labor guy. I'm a registered Democrat. The city was going in a different direction in 2010, as you may remember. In 2011, that's when we had the layoffs of half of our employees. There were lawsuits about it. We moved forward with the city council moved forward with what was called a charter initiative. And a group of people came to me and said, listen, you're an attorney, you're a prominent person in the community. We need somebody to run against the incumbents. So I ran in 2012. I lost by 155 votes. I sat out the 2014 election, and I ran in 2016, and I won. And then in 2020, by that time we had gone to districts. And the way it works in Costa Mesa is we have 6 voting districts and the directly elected mayor who the whole city votes for. So I live over by Mesa Verde Country Club, and as I mentioned, my politics is not as popular in my neighborhood as it is citywide, and so I got beat when I ran for council in 2020. Katrina Foley, who I know has been on your show, she then moved up to the Board of Supervisors and then vacated her position, and the council brought me in to be the mayor at the time. That was St. Patrick's Day 2021, and then I ran for re-election and won this year. So I've got a 2-year term, and that's how I got involved in it. It's just it's a continuation of my public service and community service that we do. My partner does a lot of community service as well. And it's just kind of how we've been built ever since I've been in my 30s. And I enjoy it, whether it's coaching or being involved in city politics and public service. I just enjoy doing it.
Well, on behalf of all of the citizens of the city of Costa Mesa, thank you for your devotion and your help. And I appreciate the fact that you're one of the leaders pushing the city forward to make it a better place.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And is there, I'll say, a mantra or a general goal or perspective of the city council or for yourself in terms of dealing with the city issues? I mean, I'm going to guess less drama is better than more, mostly across the board. But what are some of the big topics in today's world? I mean, we're coming out of COVID, which presented all sorts of problems for everybody across the board, and I'm sure you're no different. But now trying to get back on track and then now dealing with the economic issues that are starting to unfold. What are some of the big issues that you face at the city?
Well, I'll tell you some of the issues, but you just bring to mind a great quote that I learned from Jim Righeimer, who I served with for a couple years on council.
Oh, yeah. He
said, the key to this job is to satisfy the agitated without agitating the satisfied. And so I kind of live by that. Right now, people, as the election proved, people are fairly well satisfied. This last election was kind of historic because it's only the second time in the history of Costa Mesa that the city council didn't change after an election. It's the same city council before, same city council after. That hasn't happened for 40 years. The last time was in 1982. So what that tells me is that the voters are pretty satisfied with the work that we're doing. So getting to your point, what's the work? What are we prioritizing? We've prioritized addressing homelessness in Costa Mesa. We've been working on that for a number of years, and we could talk about the specifics. Housing is a big thing. We need to develop affordable housing, more housing units, both market rate and affordable. And the other thing that people always focus on is safety, just pure safety. We've addressed that in a lot of ways. Kind of the obvious thing is, your police and fire department. What have we done to address that and to support those departments and enhance those and grow those departments? But also a major focus of the council right now is street safety. If you go to, and we do, of course, canvass during an election, and we just got done with an election. If you knock on people's door and you say, how are you doing? A lot of times they say, well, we're doing okay. Maybe they just want to get rid of you. Right. If they say something, if they give you feedback, the most common thing they say is, people are speeding on my street. Can you slow the cars down? That's what people really care about. It's not Republican, Democrat, or whatever. They want their kids to be safe in their front yard. Sure. And so that is a major focus of this council. And, it's reflected in the budget and the projects we're working on.
And I've noticed it in Costa Mesa. I mean, I just was yesterday over on Bristol, and you guys have added the sort of lime green bike lanes and reflectors so that, bikes have an actual place to go and not get in the flow of traffic. And then I've noticed in other areas we're adding or expanding sidewalks, and then at the same time doing some beautification projects with adding plants and trim to make it aesthetically more pleasing, in addition to just the practical side of it. So there's no question that the better the city looks and the more practical it is, it's a win-win.
And the beautiful part of it too, Barry, is this district election. It allows these council members to really focus on their neighborhood. So if there's an issue, like we've got a council member who's in District 2, that's kind of the north part of the city, Lauren Gameros, and he's really focused on getting some type of a traffic stoplight on, I'm getting very granular here, on Belfast as you're going up Harbor, because that's a really dangerous place to go. And so he is like a dog with a bone. I mean, he's going to get that eventually. Arliss Reynolds, who's on the west side, she's you say some properties over on the west side. She's District 5. She's a believer in this thing called Complete Streets, and she's very involved in a group called Costa Mesa Alliance for Better Streets. And she's brought we've brought speakers to the city to talk about this concept. Andrea Marr as well is really focused on this and has sensitized us to when we're doing capital improvements, we really need to focus on pedestrians, bikes, making things safer. The focus for decades on capital improvements as it relates to streets has been, how can we move cars more quickly and efficiently through the city? The focus has changed now. It's how can we have active transportation, get people out of cars and safely be on bikes, and have safe pedestrian programs, and also slow cars down.
Yeah.
Slow cars down with what you'll be seeing, if you haven't seen it already, is like bulb outs, narrowing lanes. You mentioned protected bike lanes. We have many medians that we've put in. Over on Bristol, we had a lot of problems. You notice over by the camp and the lab, there's medians now. So we have a great department, our Public Works Department, that works on that. And they work in conjunction with the PD and the City Council, and kind of safe streets, complete streets, walkable, bikeable streets. That's a major focus of the council right now.
And that, I guess, sort of goes hand in hand with the whole safety aspect of it, right? Which is a concern because, to me, safety is number one for most people. And if it's not number one, it's certainly in the top few. And then secondly, as it relates back to real estate, if we're going to tie it in, if you have a neighborhood or a city or an area that is safe, it will impact the value of the properties and the desirability going forward. And I think Costa Mesa has done a great job of that over the years and has benefited on the real estate side, not just with running the market up, but creating a better environment for its residents.
Yeah, and it's safety, and it's also there's safety and aesthetics that go along with it. So I'm very proud that there's 34 cities in Orange County. The 34, we are number 3 in pavement condition index. So when you drive on a street in Costa Mesa, you're most likely going to be driving on a smooth street, okay, which also improves safety, and it also improves the aesthetic. You go to a city. I was driving around in Los Angeles.
I was just going to say, Los Angeles, different story.
Oh my goodness! My daughter lives right off of Venice Boulevard, and we were going down. I want to say it was Sepulveda, and there were massive potholes.
Yeah.
And at one point, the pothole was so big that I had to swerve to avoid it. I was worried that it was going to hurt my car. But by contrast, Costa Mesa really focuses on that. And we were number 3 last year. We barely got edged out by Orange. Of course, Irvine's number 1.
Right. And
that's okay. But we really focus on that, and we pay attention to that. And like when I do my State of a City, I report on that to the community. How are we doing on pavement condition index? And it affects, like you say, it affects real estate values. You go down it, you see a nice street, you see a safe street, you can move around the city in a way that you feel comfortable, you can trust your kids to ride around, and it increases property values. It's a place where people want to live.
Yeah, and on that same note, so let's talk about housing for a second, because you brought it up, and it certainly was one of the things I wanted to ask you about. There are 2 sides to the housing and non-housing or homelessness, right? And to me, the two go hand in hand in many ways. If we take the housing piece for a second, Costa Mesa is a very desirable place for people to live, very low vacancy, really high run-up in property values, as all over, but Costa Mesa really, I think, benefited probably more than the average city. And so what do you, from the city council's perspective, to try and create either more affordable housing or at the same time deal with the homelessness issue, which is just prevalent everywhere?
Well, they're all part of the same discussion. Okay, so I read a book. It was called They Didn't Bury the Lead in terms of their conclusion. The name of the book is literally Homelessness is a Housing Problem. And what they did is they looked and say, what's the cause of homelessness? And they talked about individual causes. Why would one particular person be homeless? And they did the litany, mental illness, drug addiction, losing a job, having some run of bad luck, maybe whatever happens. And that could cause one individual person to fall into homelessness or remain in homelessness. But what it doesn't explain is, why is it that there's so much more homelessness in Los Angeles as opposed to Chicago? And it's because if you go to Chicago, Chicago embraces the development of housing units. If you go on the tour, they're talking about the great developments that they have.
Yeah.
In Southern California, by contrast, and maybe in California, there's been a resistance to it, the NIMBYs and so forth, and I don't want this development. And over many, many years, that has contributed, and according to this book, has been the primary reason why there's more homelessness in LA as opposed to a place called Chicago. And it was very scientific the way they did it. My daughter lives in Chicago. She lives two blocks from Wrigley Field, with 4 other girls in this beautiful, huge 3-bedroom flat. She pays $665 a month.
It's a deal.
Very affordable.
Yeah.
My other daughter, by contrast, just moved into a place right off of Venice. It's a 2-bedroom, and she spends $2,500.
Right. Well, so therein lies part of the issue. And then I guess the question is, what do? There's pressure from the state and from Sacramento to all of the cities to create either more affordable housing or shelters or mental health centers to be able to treat folks that have issues, to try and keep them off the street. What is the city doing in particular, if there are any special projects, or just as a general MO to try and combat that? It's not there's no simple fix.
No, there isn't. I mean, it's multifaceted, and all of those things that I just mentioned contribute to homelessness, and they all have to be addressed. In 2018, I think it was 2018, we got sued in the River Trail lawsuit. Remember, that was before Judge Carter. It was the city of Costa Mesa, Anaheim, Orange, and the County of Orange. We spent a lot of time in his courtroom in federal court, and we entered into a settlement agreement that was the impetus for us to create our homeless shelter. We had a temporary shelter for about a year or so, and now we have a permanent shelter. It's a 70-bed shelter over by the airport that we collaborate with Newport Beach. It's been a great success. Since we opened in April of 2019, we've housed that's taken off our streets into permanent housing about 265 people. And then we have a 70-bed shelter, as I said. So we have, and it's at capacity. So we've taken those folks. Everybody's working on their housing plan in that shelter, but we see an increased need. So there's capacity to increase that shelter, and then increase the services that are surrounding it. We've got Mercy House in there that runs it we have a kind of an interesting system where it's called a hybrid, where we have city employees, code enforcement, PD, and social workers who are there at the shelter. That's where they work, and they work right alongside Mercy House, which is our vendor. Right. And they work very collaboratively. Oh man, on homelessness, we have a thing called the Network for Homeless Solutions. This started in 2013, and it's just a vast network of nonprofits, faith-based organizations that address homelessness and work with Mercy House and work with the city to address the issue. So we've had great success, but as I said, it's a housing problem. So
it's ongoing. I mean, it's just you can't take your finger off it.
It's called a permanent shelter for a reason. It's like probably in our lifetime, we're not going to be able to solve this issue. But like with almost every other issue that we encounter, Barry, whether it's, as I said, speeding on the streets, or whether it's crime, or whether it's homelessness, the objective and the expectation is not to eliminate the problem, but to reduce it and make incremental improvements on the issue. So we have some exciting projects coming up. We've got a motel conversion through a thing called Project Home Key, where we got a lot of federal, county, and state funding and private funding to develop that, and that's going to be 88 units for veterans and seniors. We're working with Jamboree Housing on a proposal to develop 60 affordable units for seniors right next to the senior center. We just opened, if you heard of Families Forward, they're
very familiar with them.
Yeah, they're a nonprofit in Orange County, and they just put their second project. It's called the Bungalows. 36 people, 8 units, but 36 people because they're families are going to live there, and that's right on Pomona on the west side of Costa Mesa.
And we have stuff over there.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So projects are happening, and then we're going to be working on, because of Measure K and because of RENA and our housing element that we got certified, we're going to be looking into a inclusionary housing ordinance and try to encourage more affordable housing being built. And honestly, Barry, I'm not all that familiar with the ups and downs of inclusionary housing ordinances, but that's going to be brought forward for us to study in the near future.
And it seems like some of these new developments for some of these bigger apartment complexes that are going up, that some portion or percentage of those units are available to either low or moderate income housing. I mean, that's how it used to be back in the day. We had several properties that had a certain number of units that were allocated towards that to try and make sure that there was adequate housing for folks that were in low to moderate income, groups. And, and I think that will help on a going forward basis to at least create some opportunities. I mean, they're in high demand for sure. So they go quick, but
well, sure. I mean, and we're so a couple of examples of where we've done that already without an ordinance. Remember the Costa Mesa Motor Inn right by the golf course on Harbor?
Yeah.
Okay, and that was a real target and magnet for calls for service and all kinds of mischief that was going on in there. So they have redeveloped that, and if you drive by now, you see it's just about ready to open. A beautiful 200 unit, mostly market rate apartment complex. But in settling the lawsuit that happened as a result of closing the Costa Mesa Motor Inn, the developer said they're going to have out of the 200 units 9 affordable units. And then if you move further down or up rather, Harbor Boulevard, you have the development One Metro West,
right?
Which is Rose Equities. I don't know if you know Rose Equities, and that's over right Sunflower to the end of Sunflower, where the Robinson Pharma building is now, right on the other side of SoCo. And in our development agreement, we negotiated 10%.
Yeah,
and they've got I think 1,100 units. So that's 100 units. Right. So we're just going to keep plugging away and trying to have the city more affordable. And as whether it's market rate or affordable units, as we have more units built in Costa Mesa as a result of Measure K, which we could talk about, the thought is that that's going to increase inventory and therefore over time reduce the cost of rent.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Measure K for a second, because in a general sense, look, you have housing prices that have gone up dramatically. It really puts a strain on then the rental market, which is very tight. Rents have gone up dramatically. So for the renter or the first-time home buyer, it really is a struggle for them in today's environment to do anything other than to continue on with whatever it is that they have. And so as you go forward with new development and overlays, explain to our average viewer and listener out there who's not familiar with Measure K what it does, what it means, and then how it impacts in reality.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we'll see how it impacts in reality as it plays out, but I can tell you in theory what we tried to do. So in 2016, a measure was passed called Measure Y. Measure Y basically said any without putting too fine a point on it, but any substantial real estate development required a vote of the people. So not surprisingly, there were no substantial real estate developments because, as you know, as a developer,
you can't put your fate in the general public.
You're not going to do it. You're not going to get site control and do your designs and do your CEQA and everything like that and then go to a vote. It's just not going to happen. You're just going to move to the next city.
Right.
I mean, why would you do that in Costa Mesa? You just the same thing in Fountain Valley. So that was a problem because we're trying to address this housing issue, but we're basically hamstrung by this this thing. And the voters voted for it, and you got to respect that. It was, as I said, I won in 2016, so it was a very, very smart electorate. But anyway, they voted, and so we needed to address it. So we put together an ad hoc committee that brought Measure K to the city council, and we put it on the ballot. And basically, what it does, and I'll get to it, it passed by 22 votes, which is a story, and I can't leave here without telling you this story. So basically what it does is it says Measure K, which required a vote of the people on development projects, it doesn't apply to certain areas of the city, and primarily it's our commercial corridors. So it's above the 405 freeway, which would be part of One Metro West, is there
right
on both sides. So you've got the west side and the east side, which is very well developed with multifamily and office and stuff like that. So Harbor Boulevard, Newport Boulevard, which is a very blighted area, which needs a lot of work, Bristol,
right
okay, the Trinity Broadcasting Network, parts of Baker, all of those just revert back to the way it used to be, where you bring a project through, it has to go through the staff, the planning commission, the city council.
As it should be.
It's still an arduous process,
right,
but at the end of it, you don't have a vote. Okay. So we're hoping that stimulates some growth, but it passed, as I said, by 22 votes. There was a lot of pushback to it. Have you ever heard of ballot curing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did ballot curing. When I say we, I'm including the advocates of Measure K, and we went around individually to people who had screwed up their mail-in ballot by not signing their name or not signing it, in the right way that they signed at their driver's license, and we went around and got, I don't know,
got them fixed.
Let's say a couple hundred votes. I mean, I don't know the exact number, but that was the difference.
And then you would say a win's a win.
A win's a win. I mean, 22. It's now law. And so, what it allows us to do too is get a certified housing element. It allows us to move forward, and then we'll see what happens. Like I said, what's going to happen under Measure K is there's a process called a visioning process, where we go to the community, and by that I mean the residents, the businesses, the potential developers, and we say, what do we want the city to look like? And then we get some vision of that, and that informs our zoning, and then informs hopefully the developer community to say, these are the projects that we think would be popular and would be well received in Costa Mesa. For me personally, I'm thinking like more mixed use, walkable kind of areas where there's more units, but also kind of a place to it.
Well, and it's got to go up because you just don't have the land to go sideways anyway.
Yeah.
I want to touch on one other thing real quick because we're running out of time. I told you to go quick. We could go all day. You've got all kinds of good stories. But,
yes.
On the commercial side, you mentioned it briefly. What is the city's posture, or yours in particular, relative to business growth within the city? And is the city a pro-business city where it would welcome and want to make sure that the businesses that are located within the city are thriving and creating job opportunities for its residents?
Yeah, I mean, the city of Costa Mesa is on fire, of course, in terms of businesses. We've got like the hottest restaurants in Costa Mesa, restaurants with Michelin stars. We've got probably the nicest shopping center in all of Southern California. We've got hotels. There's going to be more beautiful hotels that are on the horizon. There's the Avenue of the Arts is going to be redeveloped. We've got ACMA that just came in, the Orange County Museum of Art. Sagerstrom has plans that they're considering. I probably can't tell you about them, but to really enhance like the Sears property and the area across the way. A lot of exciting things are happening in the city of Costa Mesa in business. We have businesses that have come into the city, such as Anduril, that went into the press building.
Right.
They're going to have up to 2,500 employees. The average employee is going to make $140,000 a year. So high-paying employees that can really drive our economy. Then the other thing that we're doing is Measure Q, which also passed in 2020, is our retail cannabis. So we're having a lot of applications for retail cannabis. That's going to take those old shopping centers and really drive a lot of very well-capitalized improvements into those shopping centers. And we're expecting to get a good amount of revenue. the places that have applied and gone to the planning commission so far have been just outstanding in terms of their plan. But here's the thing: is a percentage, 1/2 of 1% of our 7% tax, so 1/14 of the sales, is going to go to a first-time home buyers program.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we're trying to leverage whatever we can to enhance business, which enhances our revenue, which enhances our safety, and makes it a better place to live.
Yeah. I mean, I like it. In summary, there is a game plan. Many aspects of the economy and how the city operates and the issues are intertwined with each other. And I'm glad you're at the helm and taking an active role and trying to push it ahead.
Yeah. I mean, it's the private sector, stupid. You know what I mean? It's like what we have to do as a city is focus on like safety, the basic stuff, and as much as we can serve the private sector and get out of their way.
Yes.
We're the city of the arts. Let them have beautiful artistic places. Get them through their entitlement processes as quickly and efficiently as possible without sacrificing safety, but be really receptive to the needs of the private sector.
I like it. You summed it up. We're out of time. I could go. I got a whole list of questions. I have to have you come back and share with us some other thoughts as we get later in the year, and we'll see how the economy develops. But I appreciate your thoughts and your input. Wish you and your family and the city of Costa Mesa continued success in the coming year. And thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Barry. It was a good time.
Yeah,
thanks for the opportunity.
So I'm Barry Saywitz, president of the Saywitz Company, and we'll see you next week here on Let's Talk Real Estate. I want to say a shout out and a thank you to all the folks here at OC Talk Radio and our producer, Sophia, and all the good folks who make the show happen on a weekly basis. We'll see you back here next week, and we'll talk some more real estate. Thanks for tuning in.
Well, there you have it. You've been listening to Let's Talk Real Estate, your weekly BS with Barry Saywitz about the current state of the real commercial real estate market right here in Southern California. On Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio, streaming live from our studio here at the University of California Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.